Chapter 885. Revenge. Nalan Feishue lowered her head, looked at Favis Wu's eyes full of fear after death, and she suddenly started giggling. Then the giggling became laughing out loud. She muttered, Zhu Zhongba, Nalan Hishi, Nalan Yurong, Nalan Feishue, have crawled back from hell again. Are you ready to accept my revenge? For the next 7 days, Nalan Feishue lurked in the dark, killing the people in the Zhu family one by one. From the beginning, she ate the dantian of the Qi refining stage martial artists at first, then she turned her target to the foundation establishment stage martial artist later. Until the end, even a martial artist from the Meridian stage was seduced by her beauty and died in her hands. The real terrifying point of evil technique was not only it was inhuman, the speed of advance in cultivation was also extremely rapid, which was totally different from normal cultivation. Therefore, it took Nalan Feishue only 7 days to change from a mortal with her cultivation being drained to an evil cultivation martial artist who was comparable to the Meridian stage. In the dark night, Zhu Zhongba and Zhang Nuer were still rolling on the bed. Zhu Zhongba was panting as he kept yelling, "Little fairy, are you going to squeeze me out? See how I deal with you." Zhang Nuer's moan was coquettish, "Master, I can't stand it." Slower. Suddenly, the door of the room was pushed open with a loud bang. Zhu Zhongba immediately shouted in displease as his fun was being disturbed, "Who dares to disturb? How could it be you?" Zhu Zhongba's eyes widened in shock as he spoke halfway. The woman standing in front of the bed had a cold and pale face. The pair of eyes were crimson, but Zhu Zhongba was very familiar with that look. It was undoubtedly Nalan Feishue whom he granted to his subordinate. After he gave Nalan Feishue to Fei Wu, he immediately indulged in sex with Zhang Nuer, completely forgetting about this woman. Now, looking into her crimson eyes, a shuddering fear rose from the bottom of his heart. Zhu Zhongba was stunned for a moment. Then he regained his mind and said sternly, "Bitch, what are you doing here? Get the fuck out now." Nalan Feishue slowly smiled, revealing a sinister smile. Suddenly, she stretched out his hand. No one saw what she did, then Zhang Nuer screamed and fell into Nalan Feishue's hands. Zhang Nuer screamed and struggled, "Master Zhu, help me! Help me, ugh!" Zhu Zhongba originally wanted to curse Nalan Feishue severely, but when he saw this scene, he fell from the bed to the ground in horror. Nalan Feishue used a slender white hand to insert Zhang Nuer's abdomen, and then dug out her dantian. She actually swallowed her dantian. Zhu Zhongba shivered as he looked at the wet blood on the corner of Nalan Feishue's mouth and her chewing action. Suddenly, he got up suddenly and crawled toward the door. "Help! Help! The crazy woman wants to kill me. Nalan Feishue wants to kill me. Come help me." Nalan Feishue watched him rolling on the ground, took a deep breath, and showed a satisfied smile on her face. Suddenly, she stretched out her hand, and a black gas waved lightly in the air. Zhu Zhongba suddenly let out a sharp scream, watching himself flying up from the ground. Chapter 886. Won't let anyone go. Severe pain came from his body, making him want to faint immediately. He kept yelling, hoping that the guards and servants would come to rescue him. However, the entire courtyard was totally empty. Zhu Zhongba was finally afraid. He didn't care about the pain in his legs. He kept crawling to the side as he kept crying, "Feishu, Feishu, please forgive me. A day together as husband and wife means endless devotion the rest of our life. If you kill me, you will become a widow. Please forgive me." Nalan Feishue walked slowly in front of him with a pale face and terrifying smile. "Don't worry, Zhu Zhongba, how am I willing to kill you?" Zhu Zhongba showed a pleasant smile on his face, but before he could speak, Nalan Feishue continued, "If I let you die so easily, isn't it not worthy for my suffering during this period of time? Zhu Zhongba, you really think that I will let you go for what you did to me?" "Ha!" Zhu Zhongba's eyes widened suddenly. Extreme panic and despair filled his eyes, making him roll his eyes and faint. Nalan Feishue sneered, took out his tongue and cut it off, tied him up with natural silk, and threw him into a latrine, revealing only his head to breathe. Then she slowly left the courtyard and headed to the main residence of Zhu family. All the people who bullied and humiliated her, the people who made her fall into this situation, she would not let them go. At night, the Yanjing city was completely silent, but Zhu family was experiencing a bloody massacre at this time. Zhu Yichun didn't believe it until the moment of death. He was full of wealth and his nephew was about to become the emperor. Seeing that Zhu family was about to rise to the top, it was suddenly wiped out. Moreover, the culprit was Nalan Feishue, whom he tried to marry by all means. Nalan Feishue put her hand into his belly and grabbed his danton. A cold, bloodthirsty smile appeared at her mouth. What's father-in-law's expression? Didn't you try to get Feishue as your daughter-in-law by all means? Why are you looking at me with fear? Zhu Yichun was full of horror, then he thought of something and screamed, My son! What did you do to my son? Did you kill my son? Nalan Feishue laughed and said, Kill him? Father-in-law is really funny. He is my husband, how can I be willing to kill him easily? If I don't let him taste the pain of living hell, do you think I will let him go? Ha, ooh, you sinister woman. Zhu Yichun let out a stern roar, and he was about to rush toward Nalan Feishue. However, there was a sudden pain in his abdomen. Zhu Yichun's original roar turned into a stuttering click, then he watched as Nalan Feishue dug out his dantian and swallowed it bit by bit. At the moment of death, Zhu Yichun still felt that he was just in a nightmare. Their Zhu family was about to rise. He, Zhu Yichun, would soon become the Lord Protector who was under the Emperor only. Why did he end up like this? Nalan Feishue walked out of the Zhu family and looked up at the pale sky. Chapter 887, Mother-Daughter Reunion. However, from now on, Nalan Feishue's life would no longer have any light, nor did it need light. She would dedicate her life to the devil and be with hell, only willing to collect blood debts from those who mistreated her. Nalan Feishue walked down the stairs slowly and was about to go to Zhu family courtyard when a figure suddenly rushed over. It was a crazy woman covered in dirt and loose hair. Her body exuded a rancid smell. As soon as she grabbed Nalan Feishue's skirt, she immediately whispered in a hoarse and unpleasant voice, Feishu, let me see Feishu, my daughter Feishu, oh please let me see my daughter. Nalan Feishue originally wanted to kick off the crazy woman, but she stopped. She knelt down in disbelief, and she spread away the woman's disheveled hair. A sour smell mixed with the smell of rotting flesh could be smelled, an old and unfamiliar face under his hair. The former Mrs. Nalan Murongyaru was noble, elegant, and dignified, but the woman in front of her had sunken cheeks, wrinkled face, and gray hair on her temples. However, Nalan Feishue recognized at a glance that it was Murongyaru, her mother. She stared at Mrs. Nalan in a daze for a long while, seeing her muddy and blurred eyes. She kept muttering, Feishu. Even if Feishue was in front of her, she obviously lost her mind. Even if Nalan Feishue was now heartless and had sold her soul to the devil, her soul couldn't help tremble seeing her mother in such a state. Mrs. Nalan was the only person in this world who treated her sincerely. She was able to escape the final disaster in the Zhu family and incarnate as a demon. It was because of the inscribed jade slip that Mrs. Nalan desperately gave her. It could be said that if Nalan Feishue still missed anything in this world, it would only be Mrs. Nalan. Mother, Mother. Nalan Feishue whispered in a soft voice, Mother, I'm Feishue. I'm your daughter Feishue. 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 As if stimulated by the name, Mrs. Nalan straightened up and fell to his knees, then she kowtowed to Nalan Feishue. I beg you, let my daughter Feishue go. I only have her now. As long as you Zhu family are willing to let my daughter go, I'm willing to do anything. I beg you. Nalan Feishue felt a soreness in her eyes. She stretched out her hand to cover her eyes, and her teeth clenched her lips tightly. She thought that she had lost all the feelings of being a human, but it turned out that she would still tear. Nalan Feishue gently hugged Mrs. Nalan into her arms and said in a sobbing tone, Mother, don't be afraid, I will take you home. Nalan Feishue took Mrs. Nalan back to the Zhu family's courtyard. She found out various valuable medicinal pills left by Zhu Zhongba, and she also transferred a lot of spiritual power to Mrs. Nalan. When Mrs. Nalan woke up again, There was a trace of clarity in her eyes. Fei Xue? When Mrs. Nayland saw Nayland Fei Xue, she couldn't help but sit up from the bed, grabbed her daughter's hand and cried, Fei Xue, my daughter, I finally see you again. Sorry, mother is useless. It's mother who harmed you. Nayland Fei Xue patted Mrs. Nayland's hand lightly, and she said faintly, Mother, it's in the past. All the people in Zhu family except Zhu Zhongba were killed by me. There is no one else can harm me in this world. What? Mrs. Nayland was stunned for a while before repeating, You killed everyone in the Zhu family? How can you kill Zhu family people? Chapter 888. Mrs. Nayland's resentment suddenly, as if thinking of something, she exclaimed, Could it be that you cultivate the evil technique I gave you? Nayland Fei Xue nodded indifferently, Thanks to Mom giving me the inscribed jade slip that I can be reborn. Now, I'm no longer the Nayland Fei Xue who can be bullied at will. Mrs. Nayland was startled at first, but then cried loudly, Fei Xue, my poor daughter, it's mother who made you fall. Cultivate evil technique could make people stronger, but they would also become sinner. Once the sins were accumulated to a certain level and fall into the cycle of karma, heaven and earth would sentence the person with tribulation. Moreover, those who fell into the evil path were desperate and heartless. They didn't have human emotion. After entering the 6 realms of reincarnation after death, they could no longer be reborn as human beings. They could only reincarnate into the animal realm. When she thought of the daughter she cared for since young, when she thought of Nayland Fei Xue, who had been glorious, actually fell into such a situation, Mrs. Nayland was so painful that she wished she could replace her. Nayland Fei Xue quietly watched Mrs. Nayland cried for a while, then she chuckled lightly, Mother, don't cry anymore, don't blame yourself. Rather than live like an animal, I would rather suffer the sin after death. At least until then, I can make those who are sorry for me pay the price they deserve. As she said, she remembered about Nayland family and couldn't help but frown. Mother, do you know what happened to Nayland family? Who exterminated the Nayland family? Mrs. Nayland was startled as if she remembered something. There was a violent tremor all over her body, and her pale face turned green as if she was engulfed in death. She murmured, It's Nayland Heshi. Nayland Heshi killed the entire Nayland mansion and sold Nayland Jingza to the slave market? Nayland Heshi, it really is her. Nayland Fei Xue gritted her teeth gloomily. Is she the one who caused you to be like this? Mother, don't worry, I will never let this woman live a good life. I will get back what she owes me. No. Mrs. Nayland shook his head frantically. Nayland Heshi did not harm me, she even saved me. The one who harmed me was Nayland Yurong, the daughter I have loved for decades. Nayland Yurong. Wu, what are you talking about? Nayland Fei Xue was shocked, and she said in disbelief, You said Nayland Yurong? How could she harm you? Mrs. Nayland's eyes were filled with ashes like despair, tears overflowed violently, and blood came out from her mouth. Her face was sometimes distorted and sometimes dead, showing how much suffering and pain she was inside. She told all the scenes that happened in Nayland Mansion, including Nayland Yurong who used her as a shield and indifferently watched her wailing in pain, including Nayland Jingza, who only cared about Enlingyue's relics, disregarded her life and death, including Nayland Heshi said at the end that she and Nayland Fei Xue were just 2 pawns of the Nayland family. They were just pitiful people who were being used. In the end, Mrs. Nayland couldn't help crying, Fei Xue, I hate it. I really hate the animals of the Nayland family. I know Nayland Jingza has always been ruthless and profit-oriented, but Nayland Yurong, I have loved her for 30 years. When she gave birth to her, she almost died in difficult labor. Chapter 889. The Death of Mrs. Nayland. When she was ill as a child, I took care of her for 2 days and 2 nights, but in the end, I only got 1 sentence in return, I'm a mad woman. My life is worthless. Fei Xue, I gave birth to her. How can she treat me like that? Nayland Fei Xue squinted coldly as if Nayland Yurong's cold and merciless words sounded in her ears again. Nayland Yurong. Nayland Yurong. You really are more ruthless and unrighteous than me, a person who has entered the evil path. While crying, Mrs. Nayland grabbed her chest. Suddenly, her whole body convulsed, and a lot of blood began to spill from the corner of his mouth. "Mom, are you fine?" Nayland Feishua quickly helped Mrs. Nayland and shouted nervously, "I'll find a doctor for you." Hold on. "No need, cough cough." Mrs. Nayland coughed up blood while holding Nayland Feishua's sleeve tightly. She uttered words with difficulty. "These few days, even if I'm going to die, I want to see you to confirm that my Feishua is still having a good life. Now, cough cough, now Mom sees that you don't have to suffer anymore. Mom is already very happy." "Mom." Nayland Feishua's eyes were flushed, and she hugged Mrs. Nayland tightly. At this moment, she realized how thin her mother was. There was only a layer of skin and bones left. "Mom, don't die." Tears slid down from her eyes. "Mom, you're my only relative. Please don't leave me." Mrs. Nayland shook her head, and her tears kept flowing. "Feishua can't hold it anymore. Nayland Heshi, don't seek revenge from her again. She is really very powerful. The entire Nayland mansion was nothing to her. Mom didn't want you to be in danger anymore, cough cough. And in the end she let me live and gave me the antidote. Feishua, you promise Mom. Don't seek revenge from Nayland Heshi anymore. Vengeance has a way of rebounding oneself." Nayland Feishua wiped her tears and said while sobbing, "Oh Mom, I promise you. Since Nayland Heshi saved you in the end, I will let her go." Mrs. Nayland showed a gratifying smile on her face. She stretched out her hand, trying to touch her daughter's face, and she murmured, "Feishua, you have to live well. Don't fall into the evil path. Don't revenge. Mom hoped that you will be happy, be a good person in your next life. Mom also hopes that I can be a good person in my next life." Before she finished speaking, the hand that had just touched Nayland Feishua's face dropped weakly. She closed his eyes gently, and there was a smile of hope. It looked like she was asleep. Nayland Feishua hugged Mrs. Nayland's gradually cold body, slowly closed her eyes, and a tear fell from her eye. 2 days later, Nayland Feishua buried Mrs. Nayland. Then she knelt in front of Mrs. Nayland's grave in an upright manner. A slender black round wooden barrel was placed beside her, and Zhu Zhongba's face full of despair, pain and pleading appeared above the barrel. He widened his mouth and kept trying to make an inaudible sound, but his tongue and throat had been ruined. His hands and feet had been chopped off, some of his skin and flesh were being shredded, and he was being stuffed into black round wooden barrel forcibly. Because of the nourishment of spiritual power, even if he suffered such an injury, he couldn't die. He could only endure the torture that life was worse than death day after day. Chapter 890. Nayland Jingza's suffering. Nayland Feishua kowtowed at Mrs. Nayland's tombstone, then straightened up and said coldly, "Mom, I promise you to not seek revenge against Nayland Heshi. However, I will never let go of Nayland Yurong and Nayland Jingza even if I die. Mom, you wait and see, I will avenge you." As she said, she stood up and smiled sullenly at Zhu Zhongba on the side. "Don't worry, someone will come to accompany you soon. Then, you won't be alone, my dear husband." As the vessel of gold core stage, Nayland Jingza was quickly bought from the slave market. From then on, he lived a lifeless life. To withstand the impurities and toxins in the crystal stone and spirit plant, his meridians and dantian had to bear the pain like endless insects bite every day. This kind of pain didn't happen at the moment of filtering the impurities, but as long as the impurities and toxins in the body did not disappear, he would have to endure the tormenting pain every moment. However, there was a limit to the purification and elimination of impurities by the human body. When the original impurities had not been eliminated, the vessel would often be used as a filter again and had to tolerate another round of new impurities and toxins. In this way, day after day, Nayland Jingza lived in a torturing hell every moment, wishing to die immediately and get relief. However, how could the person who bought him at a high price be willing to let him die? This was a vessel of the gold core stage. Even without looking at the expensive price, it was something that could be found on the market easily. With just a short period of time, the buyer's son had a great leap in cultivation. He would reach the meridian stage in 2 years. With this wish, the family became more attentive to Nayland Jingza. They tied him up every day, completely preventing him from seeking death or escape. Nailan Jingzi became more and more desperate in the suffering. At this moment, he was so envious and even hated Nailan Xingming, who was already dead. How good would it be if it was him who died then? On this day, the family who purchased Nailan Jingzi was using him as a vessel to filter impurities in the crystal stone. Suddenly, a gloomy cold wind blew, causing everyone to shiver in the room. When they raised their heads, they saw a young woman in white clothes standing in front of them. Her skin was pale and scary, but her eyes were dark, staring coldly at everyone in the room. Why did you break into my house? Before the house owner finished speaking, the woman in white clothes waved a black gas out of her hand. Before these people could react, the black gas suddenly wrapped around their bodies. Ah! Everyone in the room made a painful scream, then they fainted. A blood hole was dug in their abdomens. The Dantians that had accumulated spiritual power inside slowly shrank under the entanglement of black gas, and finally disappeared without a trace. With the disappearance of Dantian, these people had all turned into cold corpses. When they died, they didn't understand who they died to. A cold smile filled the corner of Nailan Feishue's mouth, and the black gas slowly returned to her body, moisturizing and strengthening the evil aura in her body, making her sigh comfortably. Chapter 891. Repay you well. Now her cultivation had been greatly improved after consuming all the Dantians of Zhu family. She no longer had to swallow the raw Dantian, but she could use black qi to directly suck the Dantian. It was just that when facing some people, she preferred to eat the raw Dantian, such as Zhu Yichun. Nailan Feishue kicked away the dead bodies and walked slowly in front of Nailan Jingzi. Nailan Jingzi was tortured by the crystal stone impurities at this time. He opened his eyes when he heard the noise and saw Nailan Feishue standing in front of him. There was a sudden burst of blazing light in his eyes. He widened his mouth, making "ah" sound. His tongue had been cut off, so he couldn't speak clearly, but it didn't prevent him from making a vaguely excited voice. Hui Su, Feishue, Jiao Ou, help me. Nailan Feishue smiled slowly. Father, what are you talking about? Are you asking me to save you? Nailan Jingzi nodded repeatedly. His eyes were filled with pleading and hope. Nailan Feishue reached out and grabbed in the air, and a flying sword flew into her hand. She gently danced the flying sword. Under Nailan Jingzi's gaze full of excitement and expectation, the sword struck down. Nailan Jingzi thought she was going to untie his rope. Who knows, as soon as the sword fell, he felt severe pain in his hands and feet. The rope was untied, but his hands and feet were cut off as well. Ah! Nailan Jingzi screamed harshly, listening to Nailan Feishue's cold words. My dear father, when I was taken back by Zhu Zhongba, I also asked you for help. I hoped you could give me a hand. At that time, how did you respond to me? Nailan Jingzi opened his mouth wide and stared at Nailan Feishue. His eyes were full of disbelief, then that disbelief turned into deep resentment. Yi Jia, vile spawn, Yi Hui O U Tianqi, you will be condemned by God. What is father talking about? Nailan Feishue raised her brows and sneered. Oh, I see. Father is saying that I will be condemned by God, right? Nailan Jingzi nodded his head. The intense pain and the pain of losing his hands and feet made him not only despair, but he was also full of hatred toward Nailan Feishue. Not to mention Nailan Hashi, who was just an illegitimate daughter. Nailan Feishue was his biological daughter. As a daughter, she dared to kill her father. How could he not be infuriated? Especially when he was full of hope. However, Nailan Jingzi never thought that no father would treat his biological daughter so mercilessly too. Nailan Feishue laughed and said, Condemnation? Father doesn't know? I have fallen into the evil path and walked into the abyss of hell. How is there condemnation? The more immoral and injustice I am, the more my strength will increase. Father, I can get what I have today. You have contributed part of it. Tell me, how can I repay you? Nailan Jingzi's eyes widened in horror. All the hatred turned into fear and despair. His mouth was widened, but he couldn't say a word anymore. A few days later, Nailan Feishue rented a carriage and left Yanjing City. In the large carriage, besides herself, there were 2 black round wooden barrels. The round wooden barrels were stuffed with Nalan Jingza and Zhu Zhongba. Chapter 892. The source of divine soul jade. Nalan Feishue looked at the 2 of them, widening their mouths with a face full of grievance. Then she stretched out her hand and gently tidied Nalan Jingza's hair before smiling faintly. Father, you know we are going now? We are going to find my dear big sister. Nalan Feishue retracted her hand, raised the curtains to look at the dazzling sunlight outside the window, and slowly said, when we find the big sister, father and husband will have one more partner. Are you guys happy? The carriage galloped all the way. The wind gently lifted the curtains, and inside was a young woman dressed in white. Her face was pale, but her eyes were as dark as the abyss of hell. Hush! She quickly let Xiaoqi absorb the divine soul jade given by immortal Xianqing. After absorbing divine soul jade, Xiaoqi's mental state and learning ability had really improved a lot. Although he couldn't speak fluently yet, he could already express simple meanings, such as eating, sleeping, hungry, and thirsty. Heshi was delighted. It seemed that divine soul jade was indeed good for Xiaoqi's disease. Nangong Yu used divine sense to check Xiaoqi's 3 spiritual souls and 7 physical souls. After a round of exploration, he withdrew divine sense and smiled at Heshi. Although his soul has not recovered, the remaining 2 souls are indeed solidified a lot. His mind soul is faintly appearing, so his mind can only recover. I believe that with 2 more pieces of divine soul jade, he will be able to recover to the mind of a 5 years old. Heshi was overjoyed by Nangong Yu's words, but then she thought of something and couldn't help looking gloomy. I have sent news from Shengde Hall and Qingxia sect. Whoever can take out divine soul jade, I will provide a large amount of best quality pills as a reward. The news was also posted on the black market, but there was no response. It seems that divine soul jade is really scarce. I don't know where master found it. Nangong Yu hugged her and comforted her softly. Don't worry, as long as there is still divine soul jade in this world, I will find it one day. In fact, Nangong Yu also dispatched all the forces of the King of Hell Mansion in the past 2 days, asking them to find divine soul jade. But in the end, he didn't even get a bit of the news of divine soul jade. Heshi couldn't help but said, should I ask master where did he get the divine soul jade? If we find it the same place, will we find it? Nangong Yu thought for a while, then shook his head. I guess immortal Xianqing's divine soul jade should have been brought over from the Siam continent. Otherwise, he should have told you the source. Heshi was even more frustrated when she heard this. Nangong Yu, do you think there is no divine soul jade in Miluo continent? Probably not. Nangong Yu shook his head. I remember I saw it in ancient books. Miluo continent once had a powerful martial artist who used divine soul jade to reside a soul. He even used sky heart tree as the main ingredient to craft a body for that soul, so that he can be resurrected. Therefore, there must be divine soul jade in the Miluo continent, but it is extremely rare. Seeing Heshi frowning and looking gloomy, Nangong Yu couldn't help but caress her forehead and reprimanded her softly. Little girl, don't be upset about other people's affairs. Your brother is already doing very well now. Even if he recovers later, at least he doesn't have to suffer now. No more frowning in? Xiaoqi couldn't help but walked over, grabbed Heshi's hand, and smiled stupidly. Sister, smile. Chapter 893. Fudi Wuyu. Heshi was amused by the 2 guys, the big one and the small one, and she smiled faintly. But Nangong Yu is right. Divine soul jade is so rare that it can't be rushed. What's more, Xiaoqi is not in danger now. Even if I find divine soul jade later, it will only make him recover his mind later. He now lives carefree like a child and be peaceful and joyful under my protection. What's bad with it? However, what surprised Heshi was, she had already given up to desperately search for the divine soul jade, but the news actually came from Nangong Yu. You said that there is news about the divine soul jade? Heshi raised her voice slightly. Wu Yu bowed very respectfully and said flatteringly, reporting to Princess, according to the news from Wu Nian, there are traces of divine soul jade in the underground market in Yangon city of Tiangang Kingdom. He looked up at Nangongyu in surprise. Nangongyu nodded at her, showing a pampering smile. Sheer, if you want, we will leave for Tiangang Kingdom in 2 days to confirm the authenticity of the news. He only felt sour and sweet in her heart, not knowing whether it was because she was touched or happy. She reached out and took the initiative to hold Nangongyu's hand, and she whispered, Nangongyu, thank you. Nangongyu scratched her nose tip and smiled softly. Silly girl, didn't I say it? Don't say thank you to me, and you aren't allowed to say thank you. Rather than say thank you, why not repay me with something practical? With that said, he hugged her waist and was about to kiss her. She flushed, pushed him away, and glanced at Wu Yu aside in embarrassment and shame. This man is really becoming more and more shameless regardless of the occasion. Didn't he see another person standing here? Nangongyu glanced at Wu Yu and immediately said with a solemn face, You have already finished reporting, why are you still standing here? If it was Nangongyu's other confidants standing at this time, they would step down in fear seeing that their master was angry. But Wu Yu, who lacked 2 things, were different. To be precise, as long as Wu Yu encountered anything related to eating, he immediately becomes ignorant and fearless. He approached He diligently. Princess, I heard that you made another cheesecake a few days ago. It tastes sweeter than honey. I have been in Miluo continent for so many years, and I haven't even heard of this kind of thing. Can Princess let me taste it? Nangongyu's face turned gloomy immediately, trying to suppress himself from kicking this shameless subordinate out. He was dumbfounded, but she still gave him a piece of cheesecake. Wu Yu took a bite of the cheesecake, almost crying. It's so delicious and the taste is so unique. It's such a blessing to stay with Princess. He looked up and down at this insensitive guy a few times, and she suddenly said in surprise, Wu Yu, are you going to break through soon? That's right, Wu Yu's cultivation had reached the peak of the gold core stage a long time ago, and now there were faint signs of breaking through. What surprises He was that Qing Long and Xian Wu were both at the peak of the gold core stage, and they all seemed to work very hard. Why did Qing Long and Xian Wu fail to break through? Wu Yu, a guy who only had food in his mind, it actually broke through. Wu Yu swallowed the cake and burped happily before he smiled at He, reporting to Princess, Subordinate also doesn't understand why I can break through so quickly. After I stole many of the delicacies left by the princess from Master, then I kept thinking about the taste of food and the rich spiritual power in it. Chapter 894. Lose every time. Without me knowing, my original stagnant cultivation has risen a little bit. It was fine if Wu Yu didn't mention this. When he spoke about it, Nangongyu's face became even more unsightly. Thinking that this guy actually stole 1/3 of the food that He made specially for him, he couldn't wait to beat Wu Yu up violently. He was also astounded. Someone actually breaks through by eating? This guy really deserves to be a gluttonous beast, Tao Tai? However, Wu Yu could break through the nascent soul stage, which meant that the strength of Nangongyu's confidence had improved by another level. She smiled and took out 2 bottles of medicinal pills and said, This is the 4th grade Meridian's cleansing pill and the 4th grade spirit healing pill. You're just on the verge of breaking through. After taking the medicine, digest it well, and you should be able to reach the nascent soul stage. But, He paused, your situation is not suitable for meditation and digestion. It is best to realize it in battle. There are many secret realms in Sealed Dragon Domain. Especially the Desert Domain has ranks 6 and 7 magical. You take the medicinal pills, then go to the Desert Domain to fight the magical beast and look for opportunities to break through. Wu Yu took the medicinal pills in surprise. As he was about to thank, Nangongyu said gloomily, Why look for a magical beast? I will accompany you to fight. I will fight until you break through. Wu Yu met his master's cold and smiling eyes, and he suddenly screamed, Don't? Princess helps. He turned and left with a smile as if she hadn't heard Wu Yu's scream. Who asked him to steal the food I prepare for Nangongyu? Just let Nangongyu teach him a good lesson. He walked out of the room and came to the most beautiful lake in the Water Moon Domain. There was crisp laughter from the lake and Little Egg's commanding voice. Little cow, why are you so stupid? I asked you to swing over from the other side of the lake with Auntie Little Purple, but you fall into the lake every time. You are really stupid. Little Golden Dragon laughed proudly. Little Egg, Xiao-Qi and I won again this time. In a while, Xiao-Qi and I will first choose the food made by Boss. Little Egg stomped his feet angrily. When Little Dumb Cow climbed up from the bottom of the lake, he immediately shouted, "Look, it's because of you that we lose every time. If I can't eat beefsteak tonight, it's your fault. Stupid cow." Little Dumb Cow tilted his head, revealed a silly smile, and said, "Little Egg, don't be angry." "Umph." Little Egg turned around angrily, showing his ass. Then he said to Little Golden Dragon with hands on his hips, "Let's compete with something other than swinging." Little Golden Dragon hovered in the air and laughed. "Let's compete with something else then. Do you think Xiao-Qi and I will be afraid of you? Xiao-Qi, am I right?" Xiao-Qi let out a whining sound, then he yelled with a big smile, "Not afraid." "Huh, have you seen it?" Little Golden Dragon landed on Xiao-Qi's head, twisting his body proudly. "Little Egg, tell me what you want to compete. Our Golden Chi combination will convince you of losing." As Little Egg was about to talk, he suddenly saw Hashi on the side and threw himself over excitedly, not forgetting to complain, "Mom, Little Golden Dragon bullies me." Hashi tapped his little head and said helplessly, "I clearly heard that you lost to Little Golden Dragon and Xiao-Qi in a fair game. If you lose, you win back. What is there to complain?" Little Egg immediately twisted his body and said with a flattened mouth, "Mom, I was wrong. Next time I will definitely beat them." Chapter 895. Go together. Hashi smiled and hugged Little Egg in her arms. Then she spoke to the rest of the spiritual pets. "In a few days, I will leave Yanjing City and go to Tiangang Kingdom. Do you all want to stay in Sealed Dragon Domain's secret territory to train, or you want to come with me?" Little Golden Dragon immediately answered without thinking, "Boss, do you really have to ask? We are your spiritual pet. Of course we will go wherever you go." Little Egg also hugged Hashi's neck and said nervously, "Mom, Little Egg must be by Mom's side. You can't leave Little Egg here." Little Dumb Cow shook his head and said one word, "Go." Even Xiao-Qi seemed to think that everyone was talking about something interesting, and he smiled and said, "Go." Purple Abyss Vine even wrapped Hashi's hand, gently stroking her wrist to express her strong will to definitely follow. A faint smile appeared on Hashi's face. A crisp girl voice came from the side when she was about to speak. "Miss, I want to go too, I want to go too." The nine-tailed silver fox transformed into a human form lunged into Hashi's arms, hugging her waist and shouting, "Miss, this time, you absolutely must not leave Xiaoli behind." Hashi patted the little girl's head, feeling her stable realm and beastkin power at this time. Then she smiled, "Let go of me first, I'm not letting go." Xiaoli shook her head quickly, and she was hugging Hashi more tightly. "Miss, you promised Xiaoli first, please bring Xiaoli with you. Xiaoli won't drag Miss down, and Xiaoli doesn't want to be separated from Miss for so long." Hashi smiled and said, "Okay, I promise you to take each of you there. But promise me first, there may be dangers on the road, so you all must hide in the void." Little Golden Dragon immediately shook his paw and retorted, "We boss battle spiritual pets, how can we hide in the void? Of course, we are going to fight with Boss. But like Little Egg who cries when encountering a monster, you better stay in the void." When Little Egg heard it, he was annoyed. "Who says Little Egg will cry? Mom, Little Egg will fight too. Little Egg is also a man." Hashi was dumbfounded. As he was about to comfort the little guy, she saw Qing Luan walking toward her. "What's wrong? Did anything happen?" Qing Luan's complexion wasn't so unsightly, but it looked extremely weird. Hearing Hashi's question, she pursed her mouth and said, "Miss, I have received the news that the Zhu family was wiped out overnight." "Zhu family? That fat man Zhu Zhongba?" Hashi raised her eyebrows. "Who did it?" "It is said that it is Nalan Feishue." This time Hashi was even more shocked. "Nalan Feishue? How did she do it?" Qing Wan shook her head and said, "I don't know, and there is another thing. The family who bought Nalan Jingze was also killed. Nalan Jingze's whereabouts are unknown." "Even Nalan Jingze is missing?" Was he rescued by Nalan Feishue? Or did the mysterious person behind the scenes of the Nalan family appear? He just thought about it for a moment, then she put this matter aside. Now that Nalan family had nothing to do with her, she had revenged those who deserved it, and she had taken back everything that should be taken back. She no longer cared about the life and death of Nalan Feishue and Nalan Jingza. Don't worry about Nalan Feishue's affairs anymore. As long as she doesn't come to provoke me, what she does has nothing to do with me. Qing Wan bowed and said, "Yes, miss." Chapter 896. Before leaving after reporting the matter, Qing Wan did not step down, but she looked at He with scorching eyes. It wasn't until He felt spooky being stared by her that she said nervously, "Miss, I have heard from Wu Yu that Miss may be going to the Tiangang Kingdom to find Divine Soul Jade. Please bring me too." Before He had time to answer, she continued to show her loyalty. "Miss, you are surrounded by rude men or children who don't understand anything. How can you not have a maid to take care of you? Please bring me along. I will take good care of Miss and will not cause trouble to Miss." He smiled and pressed her forehead. She secretly thought that when Qing Wan first appeared, she was obviously a cold character. She only spoke to her in a matter-of-fact tone. It had just been a few months, she became talkative like Wu Yu. She smiled and said, "Okay, I got it. I will bring you along." After Qing Wan got He's affirmation, she immediately went back happily to show off to Wu Yu. She had just learned that Wu Yu needed to consolidate his current realm to advance to the nascent soul stage, so he was forced to stay by Master. Master was only going to take Qing Long and Bai Hu out. Wu Xing, Xian Wu and others would stay in Yanjing City. After all, Yanjing City had just taken over the forces of the Feng family, and it would take time to stabilize. Qing Wan now completely admired He. She also knew that she would be her mistress in the future, so she made up her mind to follow He. She skipped Nangong Yu and directly begged He to bring her along. Fortunately, Princess is nice to talk to. She immediately agreed to it. Qing Wan thought with joy. Master is a wife-slave anyway. As long as Princess agrees, he will definitely not stop me anymore. In the next 10 days, He began to make formal preparations before leaving. Apart from everything else, she had to refine the medicinal pills that Shengde Hall needed during the time she was away. Although this time they went to Tiangang Kingdom, the medicinal pills from Qingxia sect could be directly supplied there, but the Qingxia sect would know that the medicinal pills were made by He herself. Those who are talented will bring misfortune onto themselves. Now, she was eye-catching enough. If people know that all the medicinal pills sold by Shengde Hall were made by her alone, the consequences were hard to imagine. In addition to the medicinal pills supplied to Shengde Hall and Qingxia sect, she had also prepared many new poisons, all-purpose antidote, and some supportive medicinal pills for emergencies. She also transplanted various rare spirit plants from the sealed dragon domain into the void. Some spirit plants, such as Thousand's Leaves Borage, could break all illusions after taking nectar. This was extremely useful when encountering danger outside. In addition, He took some of the magic weapons in sealed dragon domain at will, but what she took out was only 1/10,000th of the collection in it. Now that she was going out, she naturally had to choose the suitable ones for herself and the people accompanying her. When Qing Long, Bai Hu and Qing Wan saw He brought the flying sword magic weapons to them, their eyes almost popped out. That's the 8th grade Xingyang sword, right? It can sell tens of millions or even hundreds of millions of crystals on the market, but Princess just throws it around the corner like trash. That is the legendary weapon, Sway Blade, right? It was thrown together with a piece of rag. Chapter 897. Long live Princess. There was also that Moyang dual sword which had harvested numerous souls. How frightening was it in the past? Now it was just left in the corner. Bai Hu kept taking deep breaths, feeling that his worldview needed to be reshaped and IQ needed to be rewritten. On the surface, Qing Long was calm, but he had already lost his mind. They used to think that their master was prodigal. He could simply gift treasure of tens of millions of crystals to Little Egg for fun. But now, seeing their princess, Qing Long and Bai Hu weren't so surprised anymore. That's right. They were really destined to be together. Compared with Princess Wei of squandering, their master was nothing at all. Qing Yuan was the calmest person. She was now in a state of worshipping He unconditionally, so she happily chose the Moyang dual sword as He asked her to pick. Just when the three of them came out from the treasure vault in the Water Moon domain with the magic weapons they chose, they met Wu Yu's eyes full of grievance. Before everyone could react, Wu Yu threw himself in front of He and cried, "Wang Hao, how can you be biased? You gave them items, but not me. I'm clearly the most loyal to you." He was helpless. "If you want magic weapons, go and pick them yourself. You can pick a few of them as you like." Wu Yu immediately shook his head decisively. "No, I don't want magic weapons, I just want to be princess side. Only by following the princess can there be good food to eat." Bai Hu laughed and said, "Wu, you are about to break through to the nascent soul stage. In case you break through on the road, you will not be able to move for at least half a month, and you need someone to protect you. Do you want master and princess to guard you by your side? You should stay here obediently and stop insisting." Wu Yu suddenly wanted to cry without tears. "I would rather choose not to break through than following princess to eat something delicious." He sighed helplessly. She threw out a storage bag and said, "The food in this bag is enough for you to eat for several months. Get lost now." She couldn't help it, so she gave Little Egg's reserved food to this annoying guy. "I hope Little Egg will not find out when he returns to the void later, otherwise I will be annoyed to death by him." Wu Yu took a look at the storage bag, and his divine sense felt the smell of food inside. He sucked his saliva and immediately became delightful. "Long live Princess. I will definitely stay here to watch the place for Princess. Have a safe trip, Princess." Qing Long and Bai Hu. "Wu Yu, do you still remember who your master is?" He, "Watch the place? Isn't that a dog?" He gave them magic weapons, but she herself did not find anything more suitable for her than Li Shui's sword. Li Shui's sword was enchanted with water and fire attributes, and the spiritual root she now showed in front of people was also a water and fire dual spiritual root, so Li Shui's sword was the most suitable weapon for her. Of course, there were many magic weapons in Sealed Dragon Domain's secret library, so she didn't mind throwing a few more into the void in case she needed them. But after closing the vault, He couldn't help but come to the control room of Sealed Dragon Domain's secret territory. Chapter 898. Hope he will like I. She looked up at the vague palace above and the high-hanging sealed dragon sword, and she couldn't help muttering, "When will I get this sealed dragon sword?" Little Golden Dragon also shook his. "The enchantment set by the former owner can only be entered with at least the strength of the gold core stage. But boss, you are now at the peak of the meridian stage. I believe you will soon be able to advance to the gold core stage. When you get the sealed dragon sword, let's see how will those Feng family bastards die." She lowered her eyes slightly and did not respond to Little Golden Dragon's words, but she murmured to herself, "I'm not the one who uses it, boss. What did you just say? Why not use it?" She shook her head and said, "It's nothing." She just wanted to replace the fake copy in someone's hand with a real one. Thinking of so many things that man did for himself, whether it was breaking into the Breaking Spirit Mountain in spite of the danger of tearing the space, or now, he did not hesitate to abandon the matters of the King of Hell Mansion and agreed to accompany her to the Tiangang Kingdom. What Nangong Yu did for her, she didn't say anything, but she kept them in her heart and soul. She would never forget his kindness, his preciousness and rareness, so she wanted to give something back even more. Now that Nangong Yu was in the soul-splitting stage, Miluo continent had almost no suitable weapons for him to exert his true strength. It would be great if she could get the real sealed dragon sword for him. In Little Golden Dragon's suspicious gaze, He blushed slightly and glanced at the hanging sealed dragon sword and left the control room. "One day, I will give sealed dragon sword to Nangong Yu. I hope he will like it." After half a month, He was ready to go to Tiangang Kingdom. The tool used for this trip was a simple-looking flying boat named Star Ocean. The outer appearance of this flying boat was dark blue. Its size could be changed while flying to a minimum size of a flying sword. It could fly unnoticed in the air. The most amazing thing was that it could also transform into various other forms of transportation when passing through magical beast forests and other places that were not suitable for flying, such as a carriage. This was really essential for home travel. Moreover, although the appearance of Star Ocean was unremarkable and even looked a little shabby, the interior decoration was extremely comfortable and luxurious. Although there was only one room, it had a large area and a complete set of furniture. There was even a king-sized bed. Star Ocean's only disadvantage was that its flight speed was too slow, and the crystal stone energy consumption was extremely huge because most of the energy provided by the crystal stone was used on the shape and size changing. But as far as Nan Gongyu was concerned, he didn't care about these crystal stones at all, nor was he in a hurry to reach the Tiangang kingdom. The idea of being able to spend a long time alone in the same room with Xi'er on a slow journey or even sleep in the same bed made Nan Gongyu full of expectations for the future journey. This was also the reason why he gave up the extremely fast Godspeed boat and chose Star Ocean boat. However, things obviously wouldn't happen at one's wish. On the day of the trip, when Nan Gongyu saw the large group of people next to He, his face was gloomy like a black hole. Never mind those few spiritual pet guys, why are even Ouyang Haoshuan, Gu Lufeng and Shen Qingchua all follow along? Chapter 899. Eyesores. Moreover, seeing those guys chattering around He and making noise happily, Nan Gongyu knew that his original beautiful plan could only be a dream. Do these little bastards really think that this time out is an outing? Meeting Nan Gongyu's faint gaze, He was also a little guilty. Even she did not expect that when she was going out today, Gu Lufeng, Shen Qingchua and Ouyang Haoshuan actually came to her. The reason Gu Lufeng wanted to follow was very good. Tiangang Kingdom is one of the largest suppliers of medicinal pills in Shengde Hall. I think, as the manager and person in charge of all the businesses under Shiyu, I'm qualified to apply to visit the Tiangang Kingdom to draft our development plan. Shen Qingchua grabbed He's hand familiarly and chattered, Brother Shiyu? No, Sister Yu, how can you go to the Tiangang Kingdom without taking me? I know the Tiangang Kingdom best. Whatever you are looking for, as long as I inform Qingxia sect, wouldn't it ease up the search? Besides, I have been away from Qingxia sect for so long, and I start to miss home and grandpa. Sister Yu, can you take me with you? Ouyang Haoshuan didn't come to request to go along. He just wanted to take a free ride to the Thousand Years Flame Cave next to the Tiangang Kingdom to train in it. He couldn't help but frown after hearing Ouyang Haoshuan's words. Tiangang Kingdom is not far from Tsangming Kingdom, and there are often people going to train in the Thousand Years Flame Cave. If you meet someone of the Feng family, Ouyang Haoshuan turned his hand, took out a human skin mask, and smiled. Isn't there still the mask you gave me, Shiyu? He was startled. Then she heard Ouyang Haoshuan saying again, I want to avenge Feng Yunjing, so I must let my cultivation reach the nascent soul stage. Shiyu, you also know that my body condition is special now. Except for the Thousand Years Flame Cave, I can't find a place to improve my cultivation. So, please allow me. Since Ouyang Haoshuan had already said this, He of course wouldn't say anything to reject him. She just gave him a lot of life-saving medicinal pills and magic weapons. So, just like that, on the day of He's departure, in addition to bringing 6 little ones, 3 more eyesores were added. Although Nan Gongyu was depressed, they were already here. He couldn't really kick them out of the flying boat, right? Isn't that telling He that I'm jealous and narrow-minded? Therefore, the great His Royal Highness King of Hell could only gloomily swallow his grievances. Looking at the crowded people in the cabin and the noisy laughter, His Royal Highness King of Hell silently complained. If he knew this was, he might as well use the Godspeed boat. Star Ocean boat slowly flew up into the sky. He walked to the side of the boat and looked at Yanjing City and Jinling Kingdom from a distance. In her eyes, they became smaller and smaller, farther and farther as if they would disappear at any time. Star Ocean was surrounded by a protective cover that could prevent the turbulence caused by the airflow in flight, also shield the wind and rain, and adjust the temperature. He stretched her hand out of the protective cover, and his fingertips felt the icy cold in the air and the gust of wind passing through his fingertips. A faint smile appeared at her mouth. Suddenly, her body was embraced in a warm and broad embrace, and the familiar breath made her feel relieved. Heshi raised her head and met Nangong-yu's tender eyes and happy smile. Nangong-yu scratched the tip of her nose and said, "What are you thinking about here alone? Be careful not to fall out of the flying boat protective shield." The height of the flying boat was much higher than the height of the martial artist's flying sword, so the natural wind outside was bigger, and the air was thinner and colder. Isn't it a well-known fact that he is jealous and narrow-minded? Chapter 900, Tiangang Kingdom, Yangon City. Of course, with Heshi's cultivation level, she would not fall to death or freeze to death, but she will definitely suffer some damage. Heshi grabbed his warm and wide palm, gently rubbed the thin rough skin in his palm, and said in a low voice, "I'm thinking about many things. I'm thinking about our first encounter when I first came to this world, thinking about my past experiences in the Jingling Kingdom. This is my first time leaving the Jingling Kingdom." "Are you reluctant?" The low male voice was soft and tolerant. Heshi shook her head and smiled lightly. "The people I care about are all by my side, and everything I cherish has not been lost. My future lies in the wider world. The little Jingling Kingdom can't trap me forever. So, I'm not reluctant." Heshi turned sideways slightly, looked up at the man's handsome facial features and affectionate eyes. She said in a low voice, "I just wish that such happiness and peaceful years will never leave me." "Silly girl." "Of course. Because I will always guard you and everything you cherish." "Me too." Nangong-yu lowered his head and gently kissed the girl's soft lips. The outside of Flying Boat was cold and windy, but inside the flying boat was warm like spring, stable and happy. The Star Ocean boat was flying toward the distant Tiangang Kingdom and also the distant turbulent future. After 3 days of flying, Heshi and others finally arrived at Yangon City in the Tiangang Kingdom. The Tiangang Kingdom was the largest country in Miluo continent, second only to Tsangming Kingdom. Therefore, although this Yangon City was only a small and remote city, its scale and prosperity were far better than the capital city of Jingling Kingdom, Yanjing. The Star Ocean boat landed in the suburbs not far from Yangon City. Heshi and the others said goodbye to Ouyang Haoshuan, who was heading to the Thousands Years Flame Cave. Then they entered Yangon City on foot. They were quickly attracted by the bustling scene. The streets of the town were intertwined. There were shops on both sides of the street. Pedestrians on the road were like a river, but the whole street looked very clean and tidy. Listening to the calls of various vendors and stores, even Heshi became interested. The place where she stayed the most after coming to ancient times was Yanjing City, and the decoration styles of some stores in Yangon City were slightly different from those of Yanjing City. Many of the things sold on both sides of the street have not been seen in Yanjing City. The little ones were the most happiest. They each transformed into cute little spiritual beasts and lie on Xiaoqi excitedly, chattering nonstop. When they saw anything they liked, they would just grab it. Especially little Egg, he kept stuffing foods into his mouth, then his greasy hands would grab the beautiful jewelry. This gave trouble to Gu Lufeng and Bai Hu, who were following these little ones all the way. They had to clean up the mess the little ons caused. Nangong-yu naturally stayed beside Heshi all the way. He himself didn't like such a crowded place, but as long as Heshi liked, he was willing to accompany her. When there was a crowded crowd, he also used spiritual power to separate the crowd from time to time, so as not to bump into Heshi. However, the only thing that made Nangong-yu upset was that he tried to hold Heshi's hand or hold her in his arms several times, but Heshi relentlessly refused. Every time Nangong-yu stretched out his hand, Heshi glared at him. "Don't be kidding, I'm now dressed in man's clothing. How can two men cuddle on the street?" Chapter 901, Fans. Heshi and her party were very interested in the bustling Yangon City. The martial artists and mortals in Yangon City were naturally attracted by this group of people. The beautiful women, handsome men, and cute spiritual pets all walking on the street was a beautiful landscape. Many people can't help but cast their gaze. The most eye-catching ones were of course Nangong-yu and Heshi. Nangong Yu was tall and straight with outstanding facial features. His face was full of domineering demeanor. His gestures were full of charm that made people blush and heartbeat accelerate. Although He looked young and petite, her face looked exceptionally clear. It was almost brighter than the moon in the sky. Especially the long and narrow phoenix eyes, when they were slightly curved, they could even hook away people's souls. Two men of two different types, one was a young man and the other was a teenager, but they were both breathtaking, making people unable to extricate themselves. Soon, they had their own fans in the crowd, and the fans quarreled about which one looked better. Junior sister apprentice Luke. The man in black in front is so handsome. Don't you think he is a bit like the king of hell in the legend? Senior sister apprentice Jiang. I think the young man beside him is more handsome. His skin is as white as jade. Yeah, I cannot eat for 3 days 3 nights by just looking at his face. What you know, little girl? You look at a man, of course, depends on his figure and demeanor. Obviously, the man in black is cooler and handsomer, and I just heard him speak. Even his voice is so melodious. It's really perfect. Who said that? That boy is also very imposing. The chattering voice came into Heshi's ears, making her feel a long-lost familiarity. She couldn't help turning her head to look, and she showed a hearty smile. It turns out to be them. The world is really strange. I unintentionally come to a remote town in Tiangang Kingdom, and I'm able to meet 2 acquaintances. These women who were talking excitedly to her and Nangong Yu were the same women who talked about King of Hell at the Drunk Immortal House in Yanjing City that day. At that time, she and Nangong Yu didn't know each other. When she heard them talking about King of Hell, she couldn't help but sigh. If Nangong Yu appeared in front of them, would they run to him and hold up a sign written with, "Your Royal Highness King of Hell, I love you"? He couldn't help laughing when she thought of such a scene. Seeing her inexplicably laughing, Nangong Yu couldn't help but curiously said, "What's the matter?" He glanced at him, pursed his mouth and smiled, "Nothing. I just sighed that His Royal Highness King of Hell is really girls' dream lover. You can have fans wherever you go." Fans? What is that? Nangong Yu frowned suspiciously. As he was about to ask, he heard a woman's scream from behind. "Ah, senior sister apprentice Jiang, did you see? The young boy just smiled at me, he looked at me and smiled at me." The woman named senior sister Jiang couldn't help but exclaimed, He really looks so handsome. Right? Right? He is better looking than the man next to him in black. I announce that I will give up my crush on His Royal Highness King of Hell and favor this boy instead. I just don't know what this boy is called. Which family is he from?" Nangong Yu turned his head with a gloomy face. Chapter 902, Dangerous Carriage. He made up his mind that when they went together, he must let Heshi wear women's clothing, and he must swear his sovereignty in front of others. Several people were strolling leisurely all the way, and suddenly there was the sound of horses in front of the street. Immediately afterward, a group of people appeared on both sides of the street, arrogantly driving away pedestrians on the road. This group of people were wearing dark blue costumes and were all at the foundation establishment. Their actions to drive the crowd are very rude, and they kept yelling, "Get out! Get out! Our lady's carriage is about to come over. If you crash into the lady, can you take responsibility?" Because the carriage came so fast, this group of people drove the pedestrians in a hurry. Many people couldn't escape and were pushed to the ground. Some even fell in the middle of the road. They were kicked to the corner by the group of people, and they couldn't stop screaming in pain. Such a speed had crushed the whole street into a mess. It was a 4-wheeled carriage. The carriage was huge and prosperous. It was inlaid with shining gems. There were 4 horses in front of the carriage, and each one was a fine horse that could gallop very fast. Many hawkers' stalls were knocked directly to the ground by the horses. The goods fell all over the ground. Some people were even stomped by the horses, and they could only keep rolling on the ground in pain. Suddenly, a woman screamed sternly from the side of the road, "Baby, come back! Come back, hurry!" The woman's screams were too terrifying, and it attracted the attention of many people. Everyone saw a little boy about 3 years old staggering toward the middle of the road. A yellow doll fell in the middle of the road. The doll was stuffed with a crystal stone which would emit a faint light at night. His mother worked so hard to buy it for the little boy, so he liked it so much. He staggered to the middle of the road and picked up the doll happily, then he heard his mother scream. The little boy turned around and smiled at his mother with the doll in his arms. "Mom, baby." Hearing the sound of horses approaching, the little boy turned his head in horror and saw the huge horse head right in front of him. The horse's hoof was raised high, and it was about to stomp on the boy's head. "Mom!" The boy let out a scream, hugged the doll tightly and closed his eyes in fright. However, the expected pain did not come. The boy was lifted into the air. Immediately afterward, the carriage that was still running was grabbed by one hand. That's right, it was just one hand, a snow-white, chubby little hand that grabbed the edge of the carriage. The carriage that weighed more than 1,000 kilograms and was pulled by 4 horses was actually stopped by this hand after a harsh friction. Everyone was stunned by the scene in front of them. They all looked at the owner of the hand. After seeing the person's appearance, everyone couldn't help taking a breath of horror. It was a girl who looked only 16 years old, with a round apple face, snow-white skin and baby fat. She looked petite but not skinny. On the contrary, her chest had fully grown at such a young age. Chapter 903. Ignorant Girl. The girl was wearing a pink gauze skirt, and her head was combed with a unique bun of young girl. She looked round and soft, which was indescribably cute and childish. But such a girl who looked so soft and cute actually stopped a carriage and 4 horses with her bare hand. Who the hell was this girl? The little boy in the arms of the girl timidly lifted his head from the doll. Seeing the girl's pinky clothes, he couldn't help but blurt out, "Rabbit. Why is this sister look so similar to the spiritual beast long ears rabbit in my house? It is also pinky and fat." The girl widened her eyes when she heard this. She said curiously, "How do you know my name?" Before the little boy could answer, the mother, who was scared witless, finally rushed out and held the little boy into her arms. She cried, Baby, Mom is really scared by you. Fortunately, you are fine." Woo! Then the mother looked at the girl on the side and thanked her. "Girl, thank you for your life-saving grace." The mother's eyes were full of gratitude, but when she looked at the people in blue who had already gotten close, her face suddenly changed. "Girl, those people are not easy to mess with. You have to be careful." After saying this, the mother didn't dare to stay anymore. She hurriedly left with the little boy in her arms. As soon as the mother left with the child, the girl was surrounded by the people in blue. These people in blue all had weapons in their hands, and their expressions were vicious and full of gloom. The girl who was surrounded still looked ignorant, making her look pitiful and petite. The crowd around the audience knew what a miserable end this girl would end up with, and they were immediately full of sympathy for her. The girl was completely ignorant as she shouted to the men in blue, "You guys got in my way. Get out of the way, I'm leaving." One of the men in blue sneered, "You did this, and now you still want to leave?" The girl looked at them puzzledly and she said loudly, "What, I did this? What do you mean by this? I didn't do anything wrong. Little Rabbit has always followed Master's teachings and has never done bad things. Why did you guys stop me?" The man in blue only thought she was pretending to be innocent, so he shouted furiously, "You still dare to say that you don't know what you have done wrong? How dare you stop our miscarriage and even offend our miss? Are you looking for death?" The girl scratched her hair in confusion. She shook her head and said, "I'm not looking for death. I'm here to find someone. Are you looking for death? Do you want me to do that for you?" The onlookers couldn't help but laugh at what the girl said. It was just that due to the powerful force of the men in blue, even if it was hard to hold back, they still held it. She and the others who watched the excitement didn't even think about holding back. Especially Bai Hu, he immediately laughed out loud hearing the little girl's words. The girl's words had already made the man in blue annoyed. Now he heard the laughter coming from the crowd, his face was even more distorted. He waved the halberd in his hand at the girl, saying sternly, "Damn girl, I think you are tired o' living. I don't care who are you looking for. I will teach you a lesson today so that you know who you shouldn't mess with." Chapter 904. Not considering as fighting. With that said, the man in blue waved his hand and said to the others, "Go! Teach this ignorant girl a good lesson." As soon as the command was made, the men in blue surrounding the girl all made a move. Seeing that the gleaming swords, spears and halberds were about to turn the delicate girl into a meat paste, many people couldn't bear to cover their eyes. Only the faces of Heshi and others showed the expression of calmly watching the good show. The next moment, the girl mumbled, "Why are you all attacking me? I did nothing wrong? Right, you all must be bad guys. Bad guys deserve to be beaten up." After speaking, her little chubby hand stretched out and grabbed one of the halberds, stabbing at her. The man in blue holding the halberd suddenly felt his weapon had pierced into an iron block. He couldn't move it no matter how. The girl sneered and exerted force at the halberd. The man in blue couldn't help screaming, and he was lifted up forcibly. "Ha, you all are not as strong as I'm, not my opponent." The girl giggled, then she spun around while grabbing the halberd. After spinning around, the men in blue were being knocked down by a strong force, making bursts of painful screams. The girl saw that they were all down, then she put her hands on her waist and said proudly, "Look, told you you are not my opponent. Now you all convinced now?" But then she remembered something as she said with an anxious face, "Oh no, Master said that I can't fight casually here. Little Rabbit has just fought. I won't be punished by Master when I go back, right?" "No, no." The girl immediately shook her head and denied herself. "Master said that I can't fight, but I can't be bullied by others. This group of bad guys attacked me first. I'm defending myself, not fighting. That's right, not consider as fighting. Master will definitely not blame me." The men in blue on the ground were only knocked down by a huge force, but they were not injured. At this time, they had recovered. They all looked angry. They were a group of martial artists of the foundation establishment stage, and they were actually played by a teenage girl. Moreover, the girl didn't seem to have cultivation at all. She was just born with a little stronger physical strength. Thinking of this, the leader gritted his teeth and said sternly, "Okay, damn girl, since you are so arrogant, don't blame me for being rude." As he said, he suddenly took out a gourd-shaped weapon in his hand. With the injection of his spiritual power, the weapon emitted a faint blue light at the girl instantly. As soon as the blue light touched the girl, it turned into a net that tightly bound the girl. What's going on? Why can't I move anymore?" The girl was tied up, but she still couldn't understand the situation. "What did you use to tie to me?" The man in blue saw that she was restrained, and he sneered in relief. He waved his hand. "Why are you all just standing there? Go and get her." The guards in blue immediately rushed up when they heard the command. The girl's petite figure was soon overwhelmed by a group of fierce men in blue. Everyone showed unbearable expressions on their faces. Especially the mother who was holding the child. Before she went far, her eyes flushed anxiously when she saw this scene. Chapter 905. Sister Tutu is so Gria she wanted to go up and plead, but she was too fearful of these men in blue. At this moment when the mother was struggling, she suddenly heard a clear cheer from her son. "Wow, Sister Tutu is great." The mother quickly looked up and saw that the men in blue who had overwhelmed the girl were suddenly knocked back one by one. In the blink of an eye, all the people in blue fell to the ground again. This time it was not like the last time where they only suffered some external injuries. Most of them couldn't get up for a while and could only keep moaning in pain. The girl was holding a blue silk-like thing in her hand and threw it on the ground. Then she pointed at the men in blue on the ground and said with a stern face, "Do you all admit your wrongdoing? Don't bully others again in the future, otherwise I will teach you a lesson every time I see you." As she said, she even squeezed her chubby little fist and waved them at them. The only one among the men in blue who was still standing was the leader. He still held his gourd-shaped magic weapons that he was proud of, but his eyes were full of horror at this time. "My magic weapon is rank 4. Even the martial artists of Meridian stage may not be able to resist it. This girl seems to have no cultivation. How exactly did she do it?" Seeing that the girl had finished teaching a lesson to the people on the ground, she began to walk toward him step by step. The leader was shocked, and he staggered back. What do you want to do? The girl snatched the gourd in his hand, looked up and down, and snorted coldly, You are a bad guy. Leaving this kind of thing in your hands will only harm people. After she finished speaking, she exerted force and squeezed a rank 4 weapon into a ball. The leader's legs were trembling as if the girl was a monster to him. The girl dropped the deformed gourd, made a fist gesture to the man in blue, raised her chin and asked, Hey, did you hear what I said just now? No more wrongdoings in the future, otherwise I will not let you go. Do you hear me? I hear you. How did the man in blue dare to refute? He couldn't wait to kneel down and beg her for mercy. The girl seemed to be satisfied now. After clapping her hands, she turned around and was about to leave. At this moment, a woman's charming voice came from the carriage that had been quiet. Who said you can go? As soon as the voice sounded, a woman in a red dress jumped off the carriage. She looked less than 10 years old with a double ring bun. She stared at the girl with her eyes as if she was about to strip her alive. The woman in a red dress looked quite exquisite. She had an oval face, a high nose, and slightly sunken eyes, which made her look exotic. It was just that her skin seemed to be a little black and yellow that was close to wheat. It looked a little nondescript when paired with a red dress. But as soon as the audience saw the woman in red dress, they immediately showed awe and fear. They stepped back a few steps in silence. When they first saw the carriage and the guards in blue, many people guessed the identity of the person in the carriage. So, even if they were injured by the guards in blue, they dared not speak. When Heshi and the others watched the shows by the side, they heard whispers of people around them. Chapter 906. Adums, Brother Feng, I came to Yangon City for the first time, and I'm not familiar with the things here. Who is the woman in a red dress? Why is she so arrogant? Brother Xian, this woman in red dress is Ren Shuling. She is the daughter of the former lord of Yangon City, and she is also the disciple of the Doctors Association's president. She is the person whom you can't offend the most in this Yangon City. Doctors Association's president's disciple? The person who asked earlier couldn't help but exclaim, Is it the Miluo continent's only 10th rank physician and medicine master? Is he the Doctors Association's president, Lu Xiang, who is known as the top genius in medical skills? Who else could it be? So she is his disciple. No wonder she is already at the peak of the meridian stage at a young age. The little girl is pitiful. It seems that she is going to suffer. Yeah, right? This Ren Shuling has always been accustomed to behaving arrogantly in Yangon City. Whoever offends her will be ruined completely. Now this little girl, let alone she isn't Ren Shuling's opponent, even if she wins, she will most likely get revenge. Sigh, Heshi couldn't help but raised her eyebrow. The president of the Doctors Association, Lu Xiang, she had also heard of it. It was said that when he was only in his early 30s, he had already received the 8th rank doctor's title. Later, he went up all the way to the position of the president of the Doctors Association. After he took over as the president of the Doctors Association, decades have passed. The Doctors Association had become more and more prosperous under his management, seeming to monopolize the entire Miluo continent pharmaceutical market. Judging from all these achievements, Lu Xuyang really had some abilities. The whispers of the crowd did not affect the development of the matter on the other side. When Ren Shuling got out of the car, she sternly shouted at the girl, Which rural village do you come from? You dare to stop my carriage and hurt my person, I think you are tired of living. When the girl was stopped again and heard the woman in a red dress rude words, she became a little angry. You're the rural village girl. The girl scolded Ren Shuling mercilessly with her arms on her waist. Your skin is like charcoal, and yet you dressed in red, just like a dumbass in a red wedding gown. You obviously did something wrong and almost hurt someone. Not only did you not apologize, but you also scold me? Ugly person really has a black heart as well. You dare to call me ugly? Ren Shuling, who was only angry at first, suddenly trembled with anger. Her entire face became distorted. What I hate most is that people say I have dark skin, and this bitch not only pokes my scars, but she also dares to say that I'm like a dumbass. Damn it. Damn it! Damn it! Ren Shuling almost went mad, and a whip suddenly appeared out of her hand. As soon as this whip appeared, the temperature in the air seemed to drop a few degrees. The onlookers who were a little closer to Ren Shuling couldn't help but shudder all over and backed away. You bitch die! The whip suddenly turned into a shadow, whipping at the girl fiercely. The cold air spread to the surrounding as she whipped, giving people an illusion that even the air was freezing. The girl seemed to be taken aback. As she was caught off guard, she directly stretched out her hand to catch the whip shadow in the air. Seeing this, Ren Shuling couldn't help but sneer. Chapter 907. It's so warm. This idiot, who dared to grab the whip with his hands, is simply living impatiently. Her whip itself was refined with 1,000-years-old ice. Combined with her own ice attribute spiritual power, not to mention the consequences of being whipped, even if she touched it lightly, a layer of her skin would be peeled off. Not to mention, this woman actually dared to hold her whip with bare hands. In a while, her entire hand would freeze into ice and crack. Ren Shuling was smiling triumphantly, but soon, her smile froze. After catching the whip, the girl was stunned. She then shook it in her hand, revealing a curious smile on her face. It was a whip that would make people suffer. In the hands of this little girl, it looked like a toy. The girl even pulled and snatched the whip in Ren Shuling's hand. This is really fun. The girl smiled like she was playing with a toy. It's so cold and cool, are you throwing it to me as a gift? Then I will accept it, hee hee. The girl was young and ignorant, but not stupid. Of course, she knew that the fierce woman in red didn't give her the whip. But she disliked this woman very much, so she also wanted to make her uncomfortable. It was just right that the whip was cold and fun to play, so she kept it without guilt. Ren Shuling didn't expect that the ice whip would be snatched away. The whip is given by my master, and it took a lot of effort to forge it successfully. It is so majestic to whip it, which makes me like it so much. Now it is taken away by this bitch. Ren Shuling suddenly felt anger rushing to her head, causing her to channel the spiritual power in her body desperately. She roared, "Thousands miles ice seal." As soon as she said, the icy breath suddenly filled the air. Everyone only heard the sound of creaking, then the temperature in the air dropped rapidly. It was now autumn, but the sky suddenly started to snow. Suddenly, someone exclaimed, my feet are frozen, help. Mother, I'm so cold, woo." For a time, the originally bustling and colorful streets seemed to be covered with frost. The wailing of everyone was heard one after another. Thousands miles ice seal quickly spread to Heshi and Nangongyu, and they heard everyone screaming. Bai Hu shivered with the cold. He jumped on the spot and shouted, "Master, Princess, do you need us to deal with this ice?" Before Nangongyu and Heshi could talk, the little golden dragon who was lying on Shaoqi immediately flew into the sky and said, "Boss, let me do it. I like to deal with ice the most." Heshi smiled and nodded. Little golden dragon immediately flew into the sky excitedly, and he spouted flames from his mouth. The fire spread across the street in an instant, engulfing all the people and shops in it. Everyone was frightened. If it was just ice, they could still be alive. But if it was fire, how could they escape? However, the next moment, they were shocked by what happened. These flames surrounded them didn't hurt them at all, but they only melted the ice. A child even reached out his hand to poke at the flame that was rising next to him, and he couldn't help but smile. "Mother, it's so warm, it's not cold at all." Chapter 908. Beaten into a pig's head. After just a few seconds, the nearby ice was melted, and the flames also gradually disappeared without a trace. Everyone realized that it was Heshi and her group melted the ice that made them tremble. They immediately looked over with gratitude. Ren Shuling and the Pinky Girl naturally also noticed the situation here. Ren Shuling didn't see clearly. She just sneered, "Even dare to meddle my business? Wait until I deal with this bitch, it will be your turn after that." The Pinky Girl turned her head and showed a gratitude smile to Heshi and her party, then she glared at Ren Shuling, "You ugly woman with ill intentions, how can you do this? This is our fight, why do you want to involve the others? Little Golden Dragon only got rid of the ice on the street, but the Pinky Girl faced Renshuling's attack, so she was still covered with ice. Seeing that her hands and feet were already covered by ice and the frost still falling in the sky also stopped her movement, Renshuling couldn't help laughing. So what if I involve the others? They're just insignificant peasants in my eyes. As long as I can kill you, their death is nothing. The Pinky Girl clenched her fists and said with resentment, You are too much. I have decided to teach you a lesson. Even if I will be scolded by Master, I don't care. Renshuling sneered, You're now frozen by my ice. You can't move and protect yourself, and you still want to teach me a lesson? Dreaming. I will now ruin your face. Let's see how can you come out to the public in the future. As Renshuling said, an ice blade formed in her hand. She flew toward the Pinky Girl ferociously. As the blade was about to pierce the Pinky Girl suddenly threw a punch at Renshuling's chest ruthlessly. A loud, bang sound. Renshuling was in the air, vomiting a mouthful of blood. The spiritual power shield all over her body suddenly shattered. She was like being stomped by an elephant. It was so painful that even her internal organs had moved. Seeing that Renshuling was about to fly out, the Pinky Girl grabbed her back and smashed her face with the pinky fist. After a few punches, Renshuling's face had already turned blue and purple, half of her cheek was swollen. Her somewhat delicate face was now utterly ugly. Moreover, the force of the Pinky Girl's fist was too terrifying. Even if Renshuling put up the spiritual power shield, she still screamed in pain being beaten. In the end, she couldn't help begging for mercy. Seeing her begging for mercy, the Pinky Girl let go of her with satisfaction. She stood up and said proudly, Look, as Senior said, some people won't shed tears without using brute force. After a round of beating, they will be obedient. If you dare to bully others in the future, I will beat you into a real pig head. Renshuling knew how ugly she was now without looking in the mirror. When the people watching saw her miserable appearance, they wanted to laugh, but thinking of her identity, no one dared to laugh out loud. However, no one on Hishi's side would care about this. Chapter 909. Sneak attack by who approached Hishi and said, Miss, I didn't think so when the girl said that she looks like a dumbass, but now when her face is swollen, she really seems like it with her neck shortened. Like a dumbass. Like a dumbass. Little Egg clapped his paws and laughed. Sister Tutu is mighty, you are the most handsome beating the dumbass. Little Egg, you are wrong, she is like a dumbass in a red wedding gown, Because the whole street was silent, the laughter of Little Egg and the others became very noticeable at this time. The Pinky Girl looked toward the source of the laughter, then she saw many spiritual pets lining up to cheer for her. Pink Pig, Mini Dragon, Silly Cow, and Cute Little Girl. Whoa, how come they look so cute? Especially the Pink Pig makes me want to rush over to knead it twice. The Pinky Girl's eyes were bright, and the girl's heart burst. Renshuling hated her. She hated not only the Pinky Girl, but also those who dared to laugh at her and even everyone on the street. Renshuling had already made up her mind that when she returned, she would have people kill all these damned peasants, leaving no one to live. The Pinky Girl, who has caused me to be so humiliated today and turned me into such a miserable appearance, I must tear her into pieces now. Thinking of this, Renshuling took out an oddly shaped flying knife from her arm. The color of this flying knife was unobtrusive and mixed color. There was even some iron red rust on the knife. However, this knife was made by her master, the president of the Doctors Association, Lu Xiang. Some of the most powerful poisons in the world are mixed into it. After being refined by the spiritual fire, as long as it was injected with spiritual power, it could 100% penetrate the protective shields of martial artists below the nascent soul stage. Once the martial artist's body was injured by this flying knife, even if it was just a small wound, the toxin would immediately transfer from the flying knife to the martial artist's body, making him immediately suffer a living hell. No matter how strange and powerful this Pinky Girl is, can she even survive the deadly knife made by Master? Renshuling sinisterly stared at the back of the Pinky Girl. Seeing that she turned her head to look at the group of spiritual pets and not paying attention to her, she injected spiritual power into the flying knife and threw it at the Pinky Girl's back. "Bitch, just die." The Pinky Girl turned her head when she heard the sound, then she saw a gray-black flying knife was thrown at her at lightning speed. She hurriedly reached out to block, but the next moment, she felt a cold force coming from the flying knife. The Pinky Girl instinctively felt something wrong. She had a hunch that if she took the flying knife, she would definitely be hurt by the flying knife. At the critical moment, she leaned back and avoided the throwing knife. Just when the Pinky Girl breathed a sigh of relief, Renshuling laughed and said, "Bitch, do you think you can escape? The deadly knife will never be retrieved without killing someone." Sure enough, the flying knife that had flown past the Pinky Girl's head immediately spun back. The speed was actually several times faster than before. The Piney Girl could no longer dodge this time, finally showing a look of panic on her face. Seeing the flying knife pierced her chest, a metallic sound came into her ears. Immediately afterward, the flying knife seemed to have encountered its nemesis as it stopped in midair, making a buzzing sound. Chapter 9-10. Fairy Jishi. At the same time, green smoke began to emerge from the flying knife. However, as soon as the smoke appeared, it seemed to be swallowed by something. When the smoke disappeared, the flying knife seemed to have lost all support. It fell to the ground with a crack. At the same time, there were a few silver needles exuding dark purple smoke falling on the ground. The Pinky Girl was in shock, staring blankly at the shattered flying knife and the silver needles on the side. Then she suddenly turned her head and looked in the direction of Heshi. At this time, Heshi had also stepped forward, picked up the silver needles from the ground, and picked up one of the fragments of the flying knife. "Mister, did you save me?" The Pink Girl stared straight at Heshi's face. Her face was blushing like a red apple. Heshi smiled at her, then she said, "I'm only interested in the poison on this flying knife, not intended to save you. You don't have to thank me." The Pinky Girl didn't seem to hear her. She just looked at her with hot cheeks, and her eyes were reluctant to look away. Renshuling also suddenly recovered, pointing at Heshi and screaming, You actually ruined my deadly knife. I'm going to kill you." With that said, Renshuling was about to rush toward Heshi. But what greeted her was another round of iron fists from the Pinky Girl. And this time, the Pinky Girl exerted 30% more force. Her first punch slammed on Renshuling's stomach, which made her spout a mouthful of blood. The Pinky Girl said furiously, "You have not changed after repeated lessons. You're simply hopeless. Never mind that you sneak attack, but you even want to kill my savior? I won't let you go again this time." As she said, she clenched her fist again. The seemingly ordinary fist was tinged with a light pink luster. But Nangong Yu was the only one present to see the layer of luster. He raised his eyebrow and slowly showed a thoughtful look. The Pinky Girl's fist was about to hit Renshuling, and Renshuling was already trembling with fright. Suddenly, a cold and pleasant voice came slowly from high above. "Stop." A woman wearing a light blue gauze slowly fell from the sky. Her robes were fluttering as she slowly landed in front of Renshuling. The Pinky Girl had already launched her punch at this time, but she didn't hit anything. It seemed to be blocked by something in midair. There was a pale green wind wall rippling in the air. It was this wind wall that blocked the devastating blow of the Pinky Girl. The wind wall receded, and the true face of the woman in green clothes was revealed. She had long, slender eyebrows, clear almond eyes, and an oval face with a perfect chin. Her snow-white skin, in comparison to Renshuling's black and yellow skin, was crystal clear. The woman seemed to be in her 20s, looked like she should be around 20 years old, but she gave a sense of otherworldly elegance just like the fairy above the 9 heavens. People would only admire her when they look at her, but they forget to explore her age. As soon as Renshuling saw this person, she immediately rushed over with a cry, "Senior sister, save me, Wu." The audience also saw the woman's face clearly at this time, and they suddenly took a deep breath. Isn't that Fairy Jishi? Why would Fairy Jishi appear here? Chapter 911. Blind Worship, What Fairy Jishi? Wait, is it? Is it Lu Jishi who is known as the Miluo's twin beauties with Ice Lotus Fairy? That Doctors Association's president Lu Shuyang's only daughter. Who else can be called Fairy Jishi besides her? Also, don't compare that shameless Feng Lianying with Fairy Jishi. Regardless of medical skills, character or cultivation level, Fairy Jishi is much better than Ice Lotus Fairy. Yeah. In the Doctors Association, who didn't know that Fairy Jishi didn't rely on her father to get her current status. It is all achieved by her own talent. Feng Lianying can be called Miluo's twin beauties because of the power and influence of the Tsangming Kingdom and Feng family. Fairy Jishi has never boasted about herself outside, so Fairy Jishi's name isn't much more famous than Feng Lianying in the Tsangming Kingdom and Jingling Kingdom. However, who doesn't know which one of them is better? I heard that Fairy Jishi also gives free medicine to low-level martial artists every year and also gives free medical treatment to the poor. She really has a kind heart. But some people were puzzled and asked the people around him in a low voice, since Fairy Jishi is so kind, why is her fellow junior sister apprentice so arrogant? The person being asked was stunned. He immediately lowered his voice excitedly. It is because Fairy Jishi's junior sister apprentice is so arrogant that it seems that Fairy Jishi's brilliance is more precious, isn't it? She obviously is more noble and has higher medical skills and cultivation than Ren Shuling, but she relied on her identity and power to do evil indiscriminately. Instead, she helps countless martial artists. Fairy Jishi is simply the goddess of my dreams. If my future wife can have 1/10 of Fairy Jishi, I'm satisfied. After the woman in green clothes appeared, such comments sounded in every corner of the street. Everyone looked at the woman in green clothes with reverence, admiration, and enthusiasm. Even when Hushi met Feng Lianying in King of Hell Mansion or 100 Herb Mist, those martial artists were not so enthusiastic about Feng Lianying. Just now, Fairy Jishi's junior sister apprentice Ren Shuling had just hurt the people on the strike and cast ice seal on the innocent. But when Fairy Jishi appeared, the people in Yangon City quickly forgot Ren Shuling's evil deeds. There was only blind worship. But the woman in green clothes named Lu Jishi seemed to have been accustomed to such scenes. There was neither arrogance nor reverence on her face. There was only a calm expression. At this time, Lu Jishi stood in front of Ren Shuling with a cold expression and a glamorous face. It was in stark contrast with Ren Shuling, whose face was bruised and swollen. It also made her skin look more snow-white and her facial features looked bright and beautiful. As Lu Jishi heard the cry of junior sister apprentice, she nodded slightly toward the pinky girl. This girl, my junior sister apprentice, is a little arrogant and unruly, but not to the extent of killing her. Please forgive her. The pinky girl stared at Lu Jishi's face for a while, and she suddenly said heartlessly, "Big sister, you are so beautiful, even more beautiful than my third senior sister. But why are you stopping me from hitting this ugly monster? She is a bad guy. She also wanted to kill me just now." Lu Jishi was startled. Before she could react, a maid wearing a green dress beside Jishi yelled at the pinky girl, "How dare you calling her big sister? Which village do you come from? You actually dare to be rude to my miss." Chapter 912. Accept your apology. The pinky girl was enraged hearing that. She put her hands on her waist and said angrily, "I'm rude? You're the rude one. Master said that little rabbit is the best behaved. You still call me a village girl. You are the village girl. Your whole family is village girls." The pinky girl pointed directly at the maid in green clothes and Ren Shuling, accusing them righteously. Heshi, who listened by the side, was amused by the cute little girl. Just now she thought she was funny, but she didn't expect that she could even master the popular language on the internet in her previous life. The maid in green clothes, who followed Lu Jishi, was always respected by others. When did she face such an accusation? Her facial expression changed drastically hearing that. Before she could do anything, Lu Jishi said with a solemn face, "Lu Yin, you are really getting more and more presumptuous. Quickly apologize to this girl." "Miss." Under Lu Jishi's icy gaze, The maid named Lu Yin had to apologize reluctantly. Sorry, Lu Yin was rude just now. Lu Jishi also showed a kind expression toward the pinky girl, and she said softly, Girl, if my junior sister apprentice has offended you, I apologize to you on her behalf. I hope you can forgive her. Hearing what Lu Jishi said so, Ren Shuling was immediately unwilling. She suddenly grabbed Lu Jishi's hand and screamed, Senior sister, why? Why don't you avenge me? You even want me to apologize to her, this bitch? Shut up. Lu Jishi's face turned gloomy suddenly, and she said coldly, You went down the mountain without permission. I haven't settled this account with you yet. What's more, Daddy has ordered that we can't bully others when we are outside, but you are always domineering in this Yangon city. You even almost kill someone. Such a behavior, aren't you afraid that Daddy will punish you heavily? When Ren Shuling heard Lu Jishi's words, she knew she was really angry. She didn't dare to say more. But she was still looking at the pinky girl with eyes full of resentment. She was even thinking of various ways to kill her. After Lu Jishi warned Ren Shuling, she didn't bother her anymore. Instead, she looked at the pinky girl. Girl, are you willing to forgive my junior sister apprentice? The pinky girl's chubby fist held her chin. After thinking for a while, she said, Since you want to apologize for her, you can't just apologize to me. There are also those people who are onlookers who were hurt by your junior sister apprentice just now. You too should apologize to these people for her. Lu Jishi was taken aback for a moment. Her face turned a little unsightly for a while. Does this girl really know nothing, or does she deliberately humiliate me and make me apologize to the common citizen? Most of the onlookers were full of admiration for Fairy Jishi. How could they dare to accept any apology? They all waved their hands and said it was okay. When the pinky girl saw that everyone was not bothered by it anymore, she waved her hand and said, Okay, then I accept your apology. Then she stopped looking at Lu Jishi and ran in Heshi's direction. Mister, thank you for saving my life just now. The pinky girl blushed and looked at Heshi with misty eyes. Her eyes were sparkling. Heshi's senses toward the girl were really good. She only discovered later that the girl lacked the resistance to cute things. Seeing this girl's sincere eyes, she smiled and said, It's just a simple task, don't worry about it. Chapter 9:13. Ugly monster. With this smile, the original handsome face suddenly looked like thousands of pear blossomed. Even the sun above couldn't be compared with such a gorgeous look. The look could directly make people faint. The pinky girl who was the closest was even more charmed. She mumbled, Mister, you really look pretty, even more pretty than the beautiful fairy sister just now. As soon as the girl said this, Qing Wan, Bai Hu and others couldn't help but laughed unceremoniously. What a funny clown. Although she is telling the truth, haven't you seen that fairy sister is still there? Is it really good to just tell the truth in front of others? The onlookers heard the girl's voice and couldn't help but cast their gazes on Heshi's face, and many people took a deep breath. It was chaotic and thrilling just now, so no one noticed it. At this moment, the men and women in this party were so gorgeous and charming. Especially the boy who looked only 16 years old, his face was pretty and elegant. His snowy skin was even more transparent when exposed to the sun. It was a bit more beautiful than the best suet jade. Although the young girl's words devalued Fairy Jishi just now, at this moment, the young man really beat Fairy Jishi in terms of being pretty. What was even more surprising is that this boy was already outstanding enough, but the man in black standing next to him was not inferior to him. Especially many women, just looking at the man in black, their hearts couldn't help beating fast as if they were about to jump out of their chests. The handsomeness of the man in black was completely different from that of the young man. It was a kind of manliness and arrogance that exuded a majestic vibe from the inside out. It made people want to kneel under his feet just by taking one look. Because of the pinky girl's words and the exclamation of everyone, Lu Jishi and Ren Shuling also looked over. When they saw Heshi's face, Ren Shuling was taken aback. She almost blurted out instantaneously, Senior sister, that kid really looks better than you. Lu Jishi frowned slightly. Before she could speak, she listened to Lu Yin said with affirmation, What's so proud of a man having such a look? Looking at his red lips and white teeth, and the appearance of a coquettish girly look, he isn't a good thing at first sight. Even dare to compare with our miss. Rin Shuling also remembered that this kid had just blocked her throwing knife, so she immediately nodded. Oof, don't let me run into that bitch and this damn kid again, otherwise I will teach them a good lesson. Lu Zhishi's gaze swept across Heshi, and she frowned a little. When she looked at Nangongyu, she was taken aback. After a while, she looked away with a hint of trance in her eyes. Miss, I think that woman is too arrogant. Why don't we teach her a lesson to stop talking nonsense? Lu Zhishi did not nod or shook her head, but she slowly walked toward Heshi and her party. When the pinky girl looked back and saw a few people, she immediately looked at Lu Zhishi strangely and said, "Didn't I already forgive you? Why aren't you leaving yet? What are you still doing here? I don't like talking to that ugly monster. You all can go now." Even Lu Zhishi was calm. She also couldn't help but be stunned hearing those words. Rin Shuling behind her looked even more distorted with anger. She said sharply, "Bitch, if you dare to say, 'ugly monster,' one more time, I'll take your skin off." Chapter 9:14. Really interesting, I'll just say it. I'll just say it. The pinky girl snorted coldly. She took out a big mirror and held it in front of Rin Shuling. "You're an ugly monster. Ugly monster. Ugly monster. I'm telling the truth. Come and take my skin off if you dare." Rin Shuling saw her face in the mirror, and her entire body froze. In the mirror, the facial features of the person in the mirror were distorted. The face is full of bruises and swelling. The original facial features were somewhat uglier than the original bastard. Wah! Rin Shuling covered his face and ran away while crying. "Junior sister apprentice." Lu Zhishi shouted at her. Seeing Rin Shuling had run far away, she sighed. She looked back at the pinky girl and said, "Girl, as the saying goes, be easy on people. My junior sister apprentice has already been punished. Why should you be overbearing and humiliate her again?" When the audience heard Lu Zhishi's words, they also showed a reproach expression to the pinky girl. The pinky girl had always been a cute little girl who was loved by everyone. At this time, everyone was looking at her with reproach, and she said with a flattened mouth and red eyes, "I'm not overbearing. Master said Little Rabbit is the most behaved. Little Rabbit never does bad things." Woo! Seeing her red eyes, Lu Zhishi said softly, "Girl, I don't want to blame you. It's just that you are still young, so you are still unclear of some reasons. I just don't want you to go astray. Fairy Zhishi is really interesting. Your junior sister apprentice went astray in the street, hurting the innocent, and sneak attacked. Isn't this not going astray? Your own junior sister apprentice has gone astray, but you don't care about it. Instead, you come to teach this little girl who has nothing to do with you?" The speaker's voice was clear and moving, the tone was calm, but every word made Fairy Zhishi's face look a little ugly. Lu Zhishi looked in the direction of the person who spoke, and Heshi's beautiful face was reflected in her eyes, making her eyes flicker with a dark light. The pinky girl was overjoyed when she heard the words. She looked at Heshi with teary eyes. She almost fell into her arms and cried. Lu Zhishi looked at Heshi for a long while, but she couldn't help but move her eyes half an inch toward Nangongyu. She saw Nangongyu's gaze did not leave Heshi for a moment, and he had different expressions occasionally. He was also frowning while looking at the pinky girl with caution. It was like nothing could gain his attention. Lu Zhishi frowned slightly. She thought in her mind, "Is this the rumored Royal Highness King of Hell? The man who was loved by Feng Lianying, the so-called first peerless genius of the Miluo continent. Now it seems that he is just an ordinary man." However, as she thought so, her gaze still couldn't help but drift to Nangongyu's face. This man has a face that can make any woman fall in love. But it is not enough for a man to be handsome. I'm not as ignorant and stupid as Feng Lianying. But why does this man not even look at me since the beginning? 1,000 thoughts in Lu Zhishi's mind happened, but her face was always cold and calm. When she raised her head to meet Heshi's half-smile cold gaze, she said faintly with a slight smile, "Mister, I didn't intend to reprimand her by saying that. It was just a kind reminder. Why should Mr. misunderstand me?" Chapter 9:15. Life-saving grace. Before Hushi had spoken yet, the Pinky Girl had put her hands on her waist and said, "Then you have finished reminding now, what are you doing here? You can also go now." Lu Zhishi's mouth twitched. It took a while to suppress the change in her facial expression. She bowed slightly toward Nangong Yu. "No matter what identity you all are, but after all, we were the first to be rude. I'm here to say sorry on behalf of my junior sister apprentice." As she said, she looked at the Pinky Girl and smiled lightly. "Girl, no matter what happened, my junior sister apprentice is wrong. To apologize, if you have anything, within half a month, you can look for me at the City Lord's mansion. That's where I live temporarily. As long as Zhishi can do it, I will definitely do it for you." After speaking without waiting for the Pinky Girl to speak, she left with her maid. Only the people of Yangon City on the street were left, looking at her back with admiration and eagerness. Fairy Zhishi is as magnanimous as rumored. She is kind and benevolent. Look how the young man and the girl in pink clothes offended Fairy Zhishi. She was not at all angry. "I didn't expect Fairy Zhishi to live in our Yangon City for half a month. Doesn't it mean that we can see Fairy every day?" Everyone on the street was talking loudly, but the Pinky Girl pouted and said unhappily, "I don't like this Fairy sister anymore. She doesn't have manner all. Master said when talking to people, you must look at them to show respect. But when she just talked to me, she always looked aside. She must be looking down on me." Hushi was taken aback by the Pinky Girl's words, and then she looked at the man next to her thoughtfully. The half-smile in her gaze had a deep meaning. Nangong Yu was taken aback for a moment and said in a low voice, "Shir, why do you look at me like this? Like I did something sorry to her?" Hushi pursed and snorted softly. "A man, who attracts bees and butterflies, can simply fascinate a butterfly for a stroll. His Royal Highness King of Hell's charm is really unparalleled." Nangong Yu was even more inexplicable. But looking at Heshi's proud and sly look, he felt itchy. He wished he could hold her in his arms now and be intimate. The Pinky Girl finished talking about Lu Zhishi, but looked at Heshi with bright eyes. "Mister, my name is Emo Xiaotu," it meant little rabbit. "You can call me Tutu, rabbit rabbit. Thank you for helping me today." Hushi laughed. "Emo Xiaotu, this name really suits this little girl. You have already thanked for the third time. As I said, don't worry about it." After that, she didn't bother about the little girl anymore. Now that the show was finished and their shopping was almost done, they decided to rest in a tea house. As they just chose a tea house and sat down in the private room, they saw Emo Xiaotu probed her head from the door, looking at Heshi eagerly and reluctantly. Hushi had to ask her in helplessly, then she asked, "Why do you keep following us? Didn't I tell you? It's just a simple task for helping you. You don't need to thank us anymore." "How can it be? You have a life-saving grace to me." Emo Xiaotu said while clenching her chubby fist. "I remember senior fellow apprentice told me that life-saving grace should be repaid by marrying me to the life-saving person. Mister, I have decided to your life-saving grace. From now on, Emo Xiaotu will belong to you." Chapter 9:17. Yu Perver. Nangong Yu held her slender waist with one hand, and he gently grasped her hands with the other and pressed her hands against her chest. However, he looked provocatively at Emo Xiaotu and smiled. "Even you dare to come and steal my shear?" Emo Xiaotu widened her mouth in horror. She pointed his finger at Nangong Yu and said stutteringly, You pervert! How can you do this?" Nangong Yu sneered. "Hushi belongs to me, why can't I do this?" Emo Xiaotu jumped anxiously. "How can men be together? You pervert must have forced Mister." Suddenly, her whole body was ejected like a cannonball. Nangong Yu, who was surprised, pulled Heshi over and took a step back in a hurry. "Mr. Shi, I can call you Mr. Shi, right? Mister, you can't be with this man. He is a pervert. Don't be afraid. If he forces you, I will protect you." At this time, the blush on Heshi's face hadn't faded yet. After hearing this girl's words, she couldn't help but laugh. "Little girl, you and I have no relationship. What do you protect me for?" "Because you are my life-saving person." Emo Xiao blushed as she stared straight at Heshi. And I really like you. I think I fell in love with you at first sight. I'm in love. I must marry you. As soon as Emo Xiaodu said this, there was a strange silence in the room. There seemed to be several crows croaking and flying by. Bai Hu put a clenched fist on his lips, desperately stopping him from laughing. He looked at his master's expression that was filled with killing intent. If he really laughed out loud, he wouldn't be able to see the sun tomorrow. Even Bai Hu, who was insensitive, was scared, let alone other people. When Qing Wan first saw Emo Xiao, she thought she was in love with her master and approached the master using the detour tactics like those women before. Not one or two women did this to Nangongyu in the entire Miluo continent. But Qing Wan didn't expect that Emo Xiaodu was not after His Royal Highness King of Hell, but her own princess. This plot is too strange, right? Although she admitted that her princess looked handsome in a man costume, she never thought her princess would even steal the limelight from her master. She tried her best to not laugh out loud. The only one who didn't know how to look at the atmosphere was Little Egg. Little Egg looked at Nangongyu and Emo Xiaotu at the same time. His pinky paw held his chin as he said with an embarrassed face, "Daddy is handsome, cool, and very powerful, but Sister Tutu is also very cute and strong. I like both of them so much. Mother, why don't you choose both of them?" Emo Xiaotu shook her head anxiously. No way, my master said. You have to be royal to one. Mister, you choose me. I'm much better than this pervert. Heshi was dumbfounded, but when she turned her head to see Nangongyu's expression, she was slightly startled. Nangongyu staring at his empty arms with a gloomy gaze. A cold smile could be seen at his mouth as if he was bloodthirsty and crazy. When he raised his head to look at Emo Xiaodu, the bloodthirsty smile even had a cold, killing intent. Oh no, can Heshi still calm Nangongyu down? Chapter 9:18. Misunderstanding anyone who covets sheer should die. Heshi's eyes sank. She suddenly shrugged away Emo Xiaodu's hand and said resolutely with a faint smile, "Sorry, I can't because I already have someone I like." After speaking, she walked quickly to Nangongyu. Before Nangongyu could react, she suddenly stretched out her hand to hook his neck, bent him slightly, then kissed him without hesitation. The man whom I love can only belong to me alone. No one is allowed to covet, no one is allowed to hurt. Since he is my man, so what if I show my dominance? When touching Hishi's soft lips and tongue, Nangongyu was stunned for a moment, but it was only a short pause. He immediately hugged the girl tightly in his arms and kissed deeply. Emo Xiaodu was astounded looking at the scene. She immediately shouted, "No! Mister, don't be with this pervert." Seeing that Emo Xiaodu was about to rush to pull the two away, Qing Wan quickly moved forward and stopped in front of her. "This little girl is really tired of living. Didn't you see that my master was on the verge of exploding just now? If she rushes to disturb master now, she will be dismembered by master. Seeing that this little girl is so funny and mislikes her very much, it's better to save her life." Qing Wan pulled Emo Xiaotu aside and whispered, "Miss Emo, you misunderstood. My miss is not a man. She is just wearing a man costume so that it is convenient for her to be in public. My miss and that mister love each other." What did you say?" Emo Xiaodu was so startled that she almost jumped up. She pointed at Heshi who had just finished kissing and yelled, "You said that he is a woman, how is this possible? He looks clearly so handsome, so manly, how can it be a woman? How can a woman have this kind of demeanor? You must be lying to me." Qing Wan covered her mouth and smiled, "Miss Emo, what should I lie to you? My miss has always been in a man costume in front of people, but she is indeed a genuine woman." Emo Xiaodu still looked in disbelief, and she muttered, Impossible, how come I like a person for the first time and it turns out to be a woman? How can I be so unlucky?" Heshi had already sat down with everyone at this time. The window of the private room opened, and everyone was drinking tea and eating snacks while looking out the window and chatting. Little Egg, who was lying on the table eating the chicken legs specially prepared for him by Heshi, saw Emo Xiaodu standing aside with a crying expression and he immediately handed out a chicken drumstick and said, "Sister Tutu, don't be sad. My mom is that popular. I've met several older brothers and sisters who confessed mom, and there is one pervert among them. All of them were driven away by me, little golden dragon and little cow. Don't be sad, I'll treat you to chicken drumstick, okay?" Mo Xiaodu sniffed, took the chicken drumstick from Little Egg and took a bite. She widened her eyes as she said in shock, "It's delicious. How can it be so delicious? I have never eaten it at home before. Little pink pig, who made you this drumstick?" "Don't call me a little pink pig, my name is Little Egg." Little Egg protested angrily, then he raised his drumstick proudly. "Of course, it is my super invincible and great mom. My mom is amazing. She can cook anything, and anything she cooks is delicious." Another one being slaved by the food. Chapter 919. What baby? Mo Xiaodu nibbled on the delicious drumstick, then she burst into tears when she looked at Heshi's handsome face. Why a handsome person who can cook great food isn't a man? I really want to marry this Mr. Shi. Little Egg saw that she was still depressed. He couldn't help but patted her hand and said sincerely, "I suggest you not think about my mom. If you say you want to marry my mom again, my daddy might kill you." I'm not afraid of him." But having said that, Mo Xiaodu couldn't help shivering when she remembered Nangong Yu's sinister cold gaze. Little Egg suddenly seemed to think of something, and he clapped his hands and smiled. "Sister Tutu, since you can't like my mother, you might as well like my mom's younger brother. They are even twins, so they look alike." Mo Xiaodu looked at Little Egg while chewing on chicken legs, saying stupidly, "Why should I like your mom's brother?" Before she could finish her words, Little Egg had grabbed Xiaoqi's hand and asked her to look back. The young handsome boy was holding a cup of tea in his hand and sipping it gently with a satisfied smile on his face. His eyes were shining with purple light like the most beautiful crystals and the dyed stars in the sky, representing the purest beauty in the world. Mo Xiaodu was stunned looking at the young boy's eyes, forgetting what she had just said. Heshi and Nangong Yu sat on the side, drank tea slowly while listening to the other customers talking casually. It was easiest to collect news and inquire about the situation in this kind of place. Sure enough, after a while, Heshi heard useful conversation messages among the martial artists at the next table. "Little junior brother, your foot was frostbitten just now by the thousands miles ice seal. Are you feeling better now? That Miss Ren is too domineering." The man named Little Junior Brother immediately smiled nonchalantly. "I'm fine. For such a minor injury, I'm already satisfied to be able to see Fairy Jishi's true face." That's right, Fairy Jishi is as noble, beautiful, generous, and kind-hearted as rumored. You said, why would Fairy Jishi come to a small place like our Yangon city? Fairy Jishi is the only daughter of the president of the Doctors Association, and it is said that she will even carry on the title of the president. You don't know this? Another person couldn't help but shook his head. Have you not seen the summoning order issued by the city lord a few days ago? It is said that the city lord's son is about to die, so the city lord has no way but to take out the treasure that has been passed down by his ancestors. He will give the treasure to anyone who saves his son. Fairy Jishi came to treat his son at the invitation of the city lord. When the city lord's son is cured, the treasure naturally belongs to Fairy Jishi. What treasure? It can even invite Fairy Jishi? I don't know this. It is said that it is a piece of jade that can be used for cultivating soul. Jishi's current level in doctor and pill refiner is already high. The strength of the soul is extremely important in the process of refining medicine and healing. She must be used that jade to improve her own cultivation. Hearing this, Heshi's hand holding the teacup slowly tightened. There was a nervous look on her face. A jade that can cultivate soul? I'm afraid even if it is not divine soul jade, it must have the same effect as divine soul jade. The news from Wugo is really true. There is indeed news of divine soul jade in the Yangon city. Little Egg isn't so dumb after all. He knows how terrifying his daddy could be. Will Fairy Jishi cure the city's lord's son? If she did, can Heshi still get the jade? Maybe through Little Rabbit's help. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.